Well, almost everywhere one goes, and in almost all of the media, we are told that hunger is the result of scarcity, and that we've got to increase production in order to feed a hungry world. And the fact is, we have 1.5 enough times the food for everybody, and that's been true for quite some time. In the United States, we have close to 50 million food insecure people, and certainly there's no lack of food in the United States. What causes hunger is poverty. People can't afford food, and then they go hungry. And the irony of this is the poorest people in the world happen to be farmers. And further irony is that these poor farmers actually produce over half of the world's food, and yet they are going hungry. And they're going hungry because they're poor. Because what happens is, when these farmers harvest, because they're poor, they've got to sell their harvest right away. And that's when the price is lowest. 6 months later, they're buying the food back again. But the price is much higher, and so they go hungry. And it's also not recognized that most of these farmers are women. So it's going to be impossible to solve hunger, no matter how much we produce, unless we end poverty. And there are many ways of ending poverty, but simply producing more is not one of them. And providing credit for fertilizers in which farmers go into debt is also not a solution. In fact, the private sector and the markets have shown us over the last 30 years that they are incapable of ending poverty. We have more poor people now than we've had in the history of the planet. We have more concentration of wealth now than we've ever had before. So in fact, what we need are redistributive policies. We need land reform. We need to put resources into the countryside to make the countryside a decent place to live. Schools, roads, electricity, water. All of these things are needed in the countryside as part of the social wage in order to raise the standards of living of our food producers. And then they need to get a fair price. And the global market does not give farmers a fair price. The global market does not pull farmers out of poverty. So local markets, markets which actually protect smallholders, are going to be needed. And the types of reserves, locally controlled reserves, are also going to be needed in order to maintain a stable price for farmers. So I think that there are many ways to end poverty in the cities by establishing minimum wages, living minimum wages, for example. But in the countryside, the best way to end poverty is not to get people into debt. Is to invest in the countryside, in the social wage, in the infrastructure, and to provide fair prices for farmers, and to protect them from the global markets, which basically destroy the local economies.